So, welcome, my dear students. Welcome to Civics Chapter 1, Democracy and Equality. In this chapter, we will be studying the history of democracy and what is equality. So, let us study how the democracy history was born. The birth of democracy can be traced back to the ancient Greece. The first democratic government was created in the city-states of Athens in the 6th century BC, that is before Common Era. In the Athenian democracy, all the males were given part of body called assembly that we look that they took all the decision. And however, during those periods, some of the people were not having voting rights. Some of them are women, slaves, and people from other cities of the residing in Athens do not have voting rights. Democracy flourished further during the Roman Empire between 509 to 27 before Common Era. However, with the rise of feudalism during the medieval ages, democracy was forced to take backseat as the power of the king and noble increased. In the middle of 13th century, they tried the kings of the tyranny of the nobles, and the England came together and forced the kings to sign a document called Magna Carta. So what happened is that during the time of 13th century, however, the kind of feudalism, I mean, during the time of feudalism in the Middle Ages, the democracy was backseated, and the importance of the democracy was not able to come into a full fledged. The powers of king and nobles increases. So during those time, what happened was that the powers of the powers of the king and the nobles of England came together, forced the king to sign some of the documents called Magna Carta. In this document, some of the most important highlight is that this was done to resist the king's power, meaning great letter in Latin. It stated that the king had to obey the law like other people. If the king broke the law, the nobles have the right to remove him and choose a new one. New one means the new king. The nobles form a council to act as an controlling body on the power of the kings. So nobles means the nobles means of a counseling of a body which will be controlling the power, and they taking the decision making. But the king will be playing as an acting as a king, but he does not have any kind of he has the kind of main power, but he have to follow the instructions given by the councils, but that is from noblemen, and that is from the counseling body. What all counseling body tells the king have to obey, and king have to obey same like other peoples too. For example, the king could not impose new taxes unless approved by the council. If the king decides that if he want to collect the taxes, he will not be able to collect taxes until the approval of the council. He is not able to do any kind of imposition of taxes of his own decisions. So, and as we are going to see two type of revolution that take place in the history of during those period. One of the revolution is American War independence, and the second revolution can be traced out the French Revolution. The American War Revolution take place in the century, let's say before Common Century, 1775 to 83, and 1789 to 99 before Common Era. Both were important steps in resuscitating the powers of monarchies and establishing of government based on then principles of democracy. American War of Independence, that was between 1775 to 83 before Common Era, was a war between, that is American War of Independence was a war between two. One is the King of Great Britain and 13 British colonies in America. So what happened between the when they were having a war between the King of Great Britain and 13 British colonies in America, who was revolted against their alliance between the British British monarchy. So it ultimately led to the adoption of new, united States of Declaration of Independence, which announced the independence of 13 colonies. That is, after this war, what happened was that the revolt against kind of British monarchy, and this have led to the adoption of United States Declaration of Independence, and which announced that there is the 13 colonies become independent, and was an important step towards the negation of the supreme power of the monarch. So you have studied what is monarch and monarchical powers and everything in the class 6. Next, we are going to study the French Revolution. What in the French Revolution is the French Revolution is the second revolution. The first revolution is American Revolution. Second revolution is French Revolution. The French Revolution, the American War of Independence, inspired struggle against monarchies in Europe too. One of the most important efforts was the French Revolution, which lead to overthrowing of the French monarchy and a change in the social structure of France. The French society was divided into three separate categories known as estates. So the French society. So what happened was that the French Revolution through French monarchy, and they changed the French Revolution changed the social structure of France, and the French society was divided or separated into three categories, and the three categories named as estates. The first estate, first estate includes was the highest level was highest levels and made up of priests and religious leader. So that is so this is the first estate, and the second estate was made up of nobility, and the third and lowest estate considered everyone else, including the persons over 97 percentage of the population of France. The nobles collected taxes and rent from peasants who lived on their land. The nobles led a lavish life, while peasants lived in the extreme poverty. So these are the important revolution that take place in the French Revolution. Now we are going to see the National Constituent Assembly. This was the representative of three estates. That is, in the continuation of the French, the National Constituent Assembly was formed. The reason why they formed the National Constituent Assembly is because which made the representative of three states. That is, from three states, some of the representative was a part of National Constituent Assembly. Adopted Declaration of Right of Man and of Citizen in 1789. It recognized that all men are equal by nature and before the law. That government is instituted in order to guarantee to man the enjoyment of his natural right. These rights are: one is equality, liberty, security, property. So these events brought about the guaranteed spread of democracy all over the world. Next, we are going to study the freedom and democracy. So we know that freedom and democracy. So what is the difference between freedom and what is democracy? So most countries of Asia and Africa, which have been colonies of Europe, powers such as Britain and France, adopted a democratic form of government after gaining independence. India gained independence from the British in 1947 and become a democracy. The neighbors of India, such as Pakistan, Bangladesh, Sri Lanka, Myanmar, have a mixed records, though since independence they have experienced different forms of government such as democracy, military dictatorship, and so on. Military dictatorship means military will be ruling by itself, and no other government or no other ruling parties will be there, but military will be ruling over the country. Okay, so that is regarding the freedom and democracy. And what is the goals of democracy? We have already studied what is democracy, and we know what is the democracy means. Democracy means we people elect representative by our own, and democracy means by the people, for the people, and of the people. And Indian Constituent provides for a democratic form of government. The goal of a democracy is to bring about equality and secularism. So the main goal of democracy means to bring out equality. Equality means equal, and secularism means secular in all kind of religious, or secular in all fields. So in a democracy, people are supreme and powerful. So in a democracy, people is considered to be the having a kind of autonomous and more power than any other. So all citizens are equal and have certain rights. It is the people's interest and well-being that an elected government must give importance to. That is, if a government is ruling, if people is suggesting some of the interests, some of the suggestions, the government have to listen to it, because it is the people who elect the people who select the candidates or representatives, and select the government. So it's the people's interest and well-being that elected government must give importance to. Every government must be run according to the laws which are there in the constitution. Though the opinion of the majority of the people is important, the welfare of the people who are in majority is always considered. Every citizen is equal in the eyes of law. I mean, there is no difference between poor or rich, or whether I mean based on caste or creed. I mean, laws is not based on caste. I mean, all this thing. Every citizen is equal before the before the law, and since we are equal before the law, there is no difference. I mean, inter difference or interrelation between one to the other. So next, we are going to see about the equality is the foundation of democracy. What do you mean by equality is the foundation of democracy? Without equality, democracy is meaningless. That is, without equality, the democracy is meaningless. The sentence is that if we do not have equality among the citizen or among the people themselves, democracy will not take place, because democracy means by the people, of the people, and for the people. So if people is not having any kind of equal, by the people is meaningless, by the people, of the people, and for the people is just meaningless. So without equality, democracy is meaningless. In a democratic government, all citizens, irrespective of caste, creed, language, religion, or degree of education, take part in the governance of the country. The equal treatment of the people, irrespective of differences in class, caste, sex, religion, is called equality. That is equal treatment. That is, people should be given equal treatment. There should not be having some kind of partiality for a kind of an upper class. For there should not be a kind of partiality for upper class, and some kind of different partiality for lower caste, and based on sex. And then for male they are giving more importance, for female no, not giving more importance, and for based on the religions they are giving more importance, based on other religions they are denying. So there should not be kind of unequal differences. All the I mean all the people should be given equal treatment. That is the reason equal treatment of people, irrespective of differences in caste, class, sex, religion, is called equality. There are differences forms. There are different forms of equality. They are the following. So we are going to see the four of the followings of equality in more detail. That is political equality, religious equality, economic equality, and social equality. What do you mean by political equality? In India, every citizen above 18 years, I mean above 18 years, irrespective of sex, in the sense that either it's male or female, I mean region and religion, is given right to vote. Right to vote. This is called universal adult franchise. That is, every citizen above 18 years have the right to vote. That you have studied in class 6 in your civics chapter. In every India with the required qualification can stand for election. Apart from this, even every citizen is equal in the eyes of law. As I said in the previous slide, the laws of our constitution apply to all Indians regarding of status, sex, religion. Thus, all citizens have political equality. So, political equality in the sense that what do you mean by I mean equal what do you mean by equality is means that there should be equal in politics. The political also, we have every citizen should be equal before the law. I mean there should not be given I mean some kind of exception for these politicals, I mean about the political leaders, but the law should be I mean law should be equal for both the I mean, let's say about both the political leaders and also for the citizen. So it should not see whether they are regarded as kind of status, sex, or religion, something like that. So that is regarding the political equality. Now we are moving to the religious equality. Religious equality is another future of democracy. India is a secular country that we have already know. India is a secular country that accepts all religion and given equal importance to every religion. That Indian, I mean India, India will not deny any religion or any kind of. I mean, we do not discuss. We will not compare other religion with I mean other religion, and we do not criticize other religions, other religion, caste, customs, everything. India is given every religion equal importance and giving each individual importance to each individuals based on their own religion. Every individual and every citizen living in India are free to have their own religion, and no one is forced to have their own religious belief. Everyone has free to worship his own religion as a freeness, as a, being a secular country, and all the religions are given equal importance. Our country and our government cannot discriminate against anyone on the grounds of religion. People following every religion as given equal importance and opportunities. Our state holidays too include holidays of all religious festivals. The next topic we're going to say is economic equality. Economic equality is another important features of democracy. All the citizens must be benefited getting equal opportunities to develop and work. So as to progress, there is an equal pay for equal government tries to provide basic education to all. The education right of bill is trying to give every child between 6 to 14 years proper schooling so that he or she can make use of aid and progress in life. So that is regarding economic equality. There should be equal and equal in opportunities and to develop and work and progress of all citizen economically. There should be equality and equal before the kind of and basic education also. What is social equality? Social equality means all the people who live in the society should enjoy similar kind of rights. There should not be any kind of distinction on basics or the base of caste or creed. Let's say every person who has access to public places like playgrounds, hotels, shops, or markets, and we use wells, roads, and toilets too. Untouchability has been abolished and is punishable by law. Our country has a large number of people for a long time have been treated unjustly. They have been sidelined and neglected, deprived of education and economic progress because of social discrimination. People are not allowed to mingle with other castes. Other castes, and some of them were not allowed to have. Allowed to education or jobs. Were forced to do mental or do menial works. Many of social reforms have tried to end the discrimination in the society and have worked for the upliftment of the deprivation of society. Rajaram Mohan Roy, Ishwar Chandra Vidyasagar, Dayanand Saraswati, and Mahatma Gandhi were few of them. Many others worked hard to bring out the social reforms. After independence, people who framed our constitution made provisions for the marginalized section in the constitution. Laws developed, the programs and reservations were included to bring out equality in all walks of our life. Some of these provisions as follows. So some of the provisions of this some of the provisions based on this are the following. It is one is reservation of seats in the Lok Sabha and state legislative assembly, establishment of national commission for the scheduled caste and scheduled type, that is SC and ST, a declaration of untouchability as a crime, a reservation of seats in education institution and government jobs, passing of rights to the educational bill, child labor law, and food security bill. So these provisions are the important steps towards fulfilling the vision that occur leaders to leave our leaders to have for our country. So these are the importance of social equality. So next topic we are going to study is injustice around the world. People all over the world have seen victims of injustice. The following are the stories about two courageous people who have stood up for the cause of democracy and fought for justice all their life. The first person for the studies Aung San Suu Kyi and Martin Luther King Jr. Aung San Suu Kyi is a champion of democratic movement in Myanmar. She entered the field of politics in 1988. She was visiting her ailing mother in Myanmar when the leader of Socialist ruling party, General Ne Win, stepped down. There were mass demonstrations for the democracy, which were violently suppressed. And San Suu Kyi addressed half a million people at the mass rally in support of democratic government on 26 August 1988. However, a military government came to the power in September 1988. People helped in forming National League for Democracy and became its general secretary. She put up under the house arrest on 20 July 1989. She was offered freedom if she left the country, but she refused. She was put under the arrest by military government because she had become the secretary of National League for Democracy. That's the reason why she was put under the arrest on July 20, 1989. During the 1990s election, she was not allowed by the government to contest. Even without her, National League for Democracy managed to win, but the government cancelled the election result and refused to hand over power. The military government of Myanmar again placed Aung San Suu Kyi under the house arrest. In 1991, she was awarded Nobel Peace Prize. With her prize money, she established a health and education trust for the people of Myanmar. And San Suu Kyi has spent most of her political career under the house arrest. Countries across the world have protested against her imprisonment. She has been forced to live away from her family all these years. On 13 November 2010, military government of Myanmar finally released Aung San Suu Kyi from house arrest. Next, we are going to study about Martin Luther King Jr. In the US, the dark skinned people or the blacks faced many discriminations, were denied all rights. Many people decided to fight for their rights. Martin Luther King Jr. was one of them. Martin Luther King Jr. was born in Atlanta, Georgia on 15 January 1929. During this time, black people do not have the rights which they have today. He first experienced racial discrimination when his white neighbor refused to let him play with their boys. This was hard for him to understand because the boys had grown up as neighbors and have played together for years. No one, in no on one occasion, when he and his teacher were riding on a bus, the driver asked them to stand up and let other two people have their seat. It was the law. Martin saw the injustice being done and he never forget that incident. As a student, he began to read the teachings of Mahatma Gandhi, a man who brought about changes in India through non-violent protests. Martin was influenced by this method of resistance. Do you remember the story of Rosa Parks, who refused to give up her seat on a bus? The police were called and she was arrested. This incident led to a revolt all over America and started American civil rights movement. The peaceful marches were organized by black communities and many were arrested for taking part in them. On 28 August 1963, Martin Luther Jr. and other leaders led a march into Washington, D.C. In this Washington for jobs and freedom, for over 2 lakhs people marched to Washington movement to the Lincoln Memorial. It was here the Martin Luther King was delivered his famous speech, "I have a dream." in 1964, Martin Luther King Jr. was awarded Nobel Peace Prize in Norway, and he gave this prize money to the civil rights movement. So this is, I mean, regarding two freedom fighters, that is, two freedom fighters who stand up and causes for democracy and force for, I mean, the justice of, I mean, justice all their lives, Aung San Suu Kyi and Martin Luther King, and that is regarding the chapter. So thank you, my dear students. So this is regarding the chapter 1 of civics, that is democracy and equality. Hope you understand the chapter. Thank you.